Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're doing great and your week is going great so far. Today's video is going to be another DIY video and it's a men's shirt refashion. I really love doing these kinds of videos. They're super fun to do. And today we're going to be transforming this beautiful men's shirt. I really love the color of it. It's super beautiful. And we're going to be turning it into this beautiful square neck peplum top. I really love how this turned out. I think the square detail is amazing on this top and the ruffled bottom just adds to everything, and that's what the back looks like. Super in love with this, and if you want to learn how to make it for yourself, it's really easy to do, so grab your tools and let's get right into this. First things first, I'm going to take out the pocket. So I think this would look weird if it had the pocket in the final top, so I would recommend that you take it out. But if you want to leave it in, it's totally up to you. And all I'm doing is I'm using my seam ripper and I'm just going to detach the pocket in one piece. Be super careful with this because you don't want to have holes in your final top. So take as much time as you need and make sure you're removing the pockets nicely. And now we're going to move on to getting rid of the sleeves. You're obviously going to need them, so save them. And I'm just cutting them off with a pair of scissors. Once the sleeves are detached, I'm marking about 1/4 way on each sleeve side, drawing a straight line with my ruler, and this is going to be the square neck detail, so just cut a straight line straight across. And I folded my top in half, that way I could duplicate the exact length on the other side as well, and this way my top would be nice and even. Now I'm just going to mark a straight line. Since my shirt is curved, I want to make a ruffle bit and I wanted it to be straight. Ignore the curved line. I was originally gonna curve the ruffle, but I figured that's a bad idea. All I did was I marked 12 centimeters from my straight line at the bottom, and this is going to be your ruffle bit. So make it as wide as you want. It's totally up to you. Once that was done, I just unbuttoned my shirt because I needed to get rid of the placket, both of them, so just cut them off and save them because you're going to reattach them later. Once both plackets are off, you're just going to cut out that rectangular bit that you'd marked earlier. This is going to be a ruffle bit, so make sure you save it. We're going to attach it at the very end of this tutorial. And now you're going to have two bits, the top part and the ruffle bit, and this is what they should look like at this point. After that, I'm just taking the top bit and folding it in half. Since this shirt was much bigger than I am, I had to take in the back, so I just marked off 12 centimeters. You can try the shirt on and see how much fabric you need to take in from the back and just mark that length, and then with that bit of excess fabric you're just going to fold it in half. I did not want to cut it off in case the top turned out to be smaller than I wanted, so I just ironed it down, took out the pins and sewed on both sides as you're about to see. So as you can see, you have your fabric bit and just sew along the sides just to make sure it stays flat, and it will be this beautiful bit of fabric that's taken in at the back once the top is nice and done. Once that was done, this is what my top looked like, and on the back side you will see that there's this kind of effect that seems like it's going in, and I really like that. Now moving on to hemming everything, I just doubled hem the top of the top and all I did was I rolled it twice and pinned it. I did this for both the front and the back sides, that way it would look nice and finished. Once everything is nice and pinned, you're just going to sew along the bottom and the top of each bit. This will just give a very finished and polished look, and I think it looks really nice with both edges sewn. So it's totally optional, you can just sew it once, but I think doing it this way just looks much cleaner and much better. I did that for every bit, and once that was done, this is what my top looked like at this point. Now moving on to reattaching the sleeve. sleeve, I'm just marking the bit that I'm going to sew back onto the shirt. That way I know the amount of elastic to put. And once I've marked those bits, I just measured an elastic around my shoulder, took off the accessory bit on my sewing machine so that sewing the sleeve would be much easier. And as I sewed the elastic, I made sure to tug and pull. And if you do this, you're going to end up with this beautiful gathered effect, and that's what's going to give the ruffle kind of detail at the top. This is what it looks like once the elastic is sewn on. I also overlocked the edge so that 1, it wouldn't fray, and 2, it would have this beautiful lettuce effect. As you can see, that's quite pretty. I really love how it turned out. And now you're going to reattach the sleeve to the top. Using the points you marked, you're just going to align the seams, pin everything down, and sew it together. So just make sure everything is nice and aligned, put as many pins as you want, and once everything is nice and pinned, you're just going to sew along that point to attach the sleeve to the actual top. You're going to obviously do this on both sides, that way you have 2 sleeve bits attached to your top, but in case you want to do just 1 sleeve, who am I to tell you what to do with your life? Once you've sewn everything, that's what it should look like. So I tried the top on and it was still a bit too big for my liking. And all I did was I marked with pins the length I needed to take off. Remember, we're attaching our button placket and our other placket back. So all I did was I snipped off the excess fabric on one end. This is going to be the end where the buttons go. And I just double hemmed that, did a straight stitch down, and that was good to go. Now moving on to the placket. Since it's the entire length of the shirt, I needed to make it shorter, so I just bunched up the fabric between 2 buttonholes, sewed straight across, and once that was done, you're going to have this beautiful effect on the front. There's going to be a lot of excess fabric at the back, but don't worry, you can just snip that off. Once you've done that between each buttonhole, that's what you'll be left with. Now for the other side, taking the excess fabric, I just folded it in half. And taking my now redone button placket, I'm just going to attach it to the edge of the fold, as you can see. So I just pinned this to the very edge. Make sure everything is nice and aligned so that when it comes to sewing, it's really easy to do so. And as for the excess fabric on the inside, just snip it off. That way you don't have any bulky bit in your final top. Once you've done a straight stitch, your button placket will now be attached to your top, and now I just laid it directly on top of the other side. That way I would know exactly where my buttons would go. So using a chalk, I just marked out the points, and once I had that, I just laid my buttons and sewed them on using my hand. This is very last minute, but I decided to add in a 1.5 centimeter dot because the top was still quite big, and you can obviously do this according to how big your top is. I actually would recommend doing this step and then moving on to the dots. So what I'm doing now is I'm making the top the length I want, which is about 25 centimeters. Once you've cut off that bit of fabric, this is when I would recommend you do the dots. But either way, even if you do it like me, you're still going to be fine. Now with the top opened up, it's time to attach the ruffle. And what you're going to do is first align the seams and make sure everything is nice and aligned. And with the excess fabric left, you're just going to fluff it out, make sure it lays flat. That way you create this beautiful ruffle once you turn it inside out. I am attaching this to the right side of the top facing me and the wrong side of the ruffle facing me. So all I'm doing is I'm fluffing out the fabric, laying it flat and pinning it down. That way when it comes to sewing, it will be nice and flat. So just make sure all edges are aligned before you fluff out the excess fabric, as you see me doing. This will make sure you have quite an even ruffle, which looks much better than just freestyling it. Once you've pinned everything down, just use a straight stitch and attach the ruffle to your top, and just take out the pins as you go. Push the ruffle in where need be and make sure it's laying flat. Sometimes the ruffle will come undone, so just make sure you're holding it in place before you sew it. That way when you sew it, everything is right where you want it to be, and you'll have this beautiful ruffle attached to your top at the end of the day. And this is what the ruffle looks like once it's attached to your top, and you are done with this project. It's really easy to do. I ended up adding a button because it looked a bit weird without the last button, because I made my placket a bit shorter than I wanted. But other than that, I really hope you guys enjoyed watching this video. Let me know if you'll try this. It's super easy to do and looks super beautiful, so I recommend you guys try it. Having said that, I hope I catch your beautiful face in my next upload. But until then, stay safe, don't do drugs, and be awesome. I love you guys so much. See you next time. Bye.